welcome to Interface. It's the first Sunday of August, which is, as you know, Women's Month. Now, Interface will be celebrating women throughout this month. Starting tonight, we're speaking to two remarkable women who are making waves in fields that we rarely pay attention to. Gladys Makagula is a mission control specialist at the South African National Space Agency, and Miriam is a paleoanthropologist at Wits University. We'll talk to both of them in a minute, but you must just remember that we do take your comments, not via SMS tonight, but via our Facebook page, which is Interface on SABC3. So please do keep them coming. A warm welcome to both of you, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Teresa.
Let's start with you, Miriam, a paleoanthropologist. While most people your age were dreaming of becoming doctors and nurses and teachers and even journalists or, other fields, what made you think that's what I want to be?
Well, it was not the career that I chose from the beginning. I chose to become a medical doctor.
Okay.
I came to Wits. The intention was to do medicine. I did my third year BSc degree, and then I changed courses on the last year of my degree. I come from Taung, and we have a heritage site. So I got a little bit of scientific information that I didn't know when I was back home about what does it really means, the heritage site itself, and these fantastic discoveries that have been found there. So that inspired
why did you
me.
become interested in that aspect of things while you were in medicine? What made you think it's time to switch to something else?
Most South Africans, we don't know about this career, and the statistics, we are not doing this.
Yeah.
Like you said, we do courses like teaching, policing, nursing, because that's what our mothers and our parents, that's what our parents know. And they more like guide us on those lines. So it was a privilege for me to study something that is not sort of common per se. It was really a privilege.
But did you know what it was, or did somebody convince you to get into it and then you had to learn about it?
When I grew at home, when I grew up at home in town, I knew about the heritage site.
Okay.
I knew about the discoveries. I didn't know what it entails about us humans, what it means about us, our existence, especially Africans. So getting to know that information, that just, I was grabbed. No one convinced me to take this. I changed careers right there and there.
Wow.
Medicine was like outside the window, and then I pursued honors paleontology, masters, and then I did PhD.
My goodness. Was it similar for you, Gladys, going into space and being fascinated by space, or was it also a different route for you?
It was almost similar, but somehow a different route. Went to university and did my BSc, majored in physics and computer science in the then University of the North, now University of Limpopo. And while doing my third year, there was some guys from Department of Communications who were recruiting students from previously disadvantaged institutions to go basically and join. There's an institute that was started by the then DG of Communications, Andile Ngaba, an Institute for Satellite and Software Applications in the Southern Cape, near Cape Town. So that institute gathered these scientists from previously disadvantaged institutions to go be introduced in engineering. Some of them went to I joined the group that did a master's in satellite engineering, so I can say, because that's where I got introduced to satellites in Stellenbosch University. There are some who went to do software engineering in Carnegie Mellon in the US. There are some who did remote sensing in France, like all over, So
did you get into it then at that stage because it was a program that was there, it could advance you in some way, or were you genuinely fascinated by all this?
When I got into this, it was just, okay, here's a chance to go to Cape Town, you know. And I didn't know what it entailed. And when I got there and then started studying satellite dynamics. I'm like, okay, because we grew up knowing that satellites are the dishes and on the side of our houses for receiving DSTV, not knowing exactly what a satellite is. So when I got the real information what a satellite is, I made sure that I called home and said, what we thought was a satellite is definitely not. That's not just a dish. It's an it's an antenna. It's like an aerial that, you know, the old radios had that antenna that you close and open. So yeah.
I must be honest with you both. I'm one of those South Africans that you'll have to educate thoroughly when it comes to what you both do, because I hear, for example, the discoveries, the latest one being that discovery of the skeleton, that's named Karabo.
Yes,
everybody gets excited about it, and we watch it, you read the news, and you follow it, and you think, okay, that's great, wonderful, but you know, what does it have to do with me and my grandma and everybody else around me? How do you connect what you do to what we know as daily issues?
The one you have just spoken about, we call them hominids. They are our human ancestors. They are the ones that gave rise to us. So understanding how they lived, that could really help us understand how we came to be, just in a nutshell. So it is really fantastic to find, especially as a specimen like Karabo, because it is a juvenile boy who is almost complete. Fossils are fragmentary, but that one is almost so complete. So you can do morphological comparisons between
Okay. Break it down for us. Morphological, what?
You can compare that skeleton to a human skeleton and see the differences and the similarities, and see the lines, the human evolution, to the changes that.
But Miriam, once we've established it, is it a nice to know where you say, oh, okay, we are so similar to the people in the past, or this is where our differences were, and then you shrug off and you go dig up another skeleton? Or is there some relevance that, you know, we can hold on to and say, this is why this is important for us today, here and now?
Exactly. There is some relevance. I mean, we can find out about their diet. We can find out about how they utilize their environment. And that really could have an impact on how we, the South Africans, live our lives, how we utilize the resources that we have, not to deplenish everything that we have, just getting everything from them, because they didn't have anything that we have. They had so little to live on, and they survived for a very long time.
Okay.
So that
well
is
made.
something that really we can take from them, how they live their lives, and then just change our lifestyles.
Let me throw the same question to you, Gladys. You know, we hear about this SKA, everybody's getting excited that we're now hosting this big satellite, and, you know, we're sharing the rights with Australia, and we get excited about it, but we don't know exactly what we're getting excited about. Can you just break down for us, why is that so significant?
Well, with the SKA, what's significant is that it's going to, because the SKA is more of the astronomy people, different from SANSA. But basically, they are going to look up and try to really find out where this universe that we live in came from. Basically, try to find out.
Yeah, the SKA, we must just say, is the Square Kilometre Array project. Whatever this project is, relative to what you do, at what point do you say, we're not just gazing up at the sky and wanting to launch out there to check it out and say, oh, okay, this is how the rest of the universe looks, but this is actually relevant and significant for us back here at home?
Well, I'll bring that back to SANSA. SANSA, we just to give you a bit of a background, it's a government body for the promotion and use of space. It also fosters cooperation in space-related activities and also research in space science. Basically, what SANSA we do, just to give a bit of a background again, we've got some directorates, space operations, which the directorate I'm from, and Earth observation, and space science, and space engineering is not yet formed. But what you do, space operations are more into the tracking of satellites, downloading of data from the satellites. Then we once downloaded, we give the data to Earth observation.
I hear all of this. I hear all of this.
I'm
Gladys.
bringing the point
And
home.
I have to take a short break, and I'm gonna come back to you. The question is why? Why are we trying to find out all of these space satellites and everything else that you're talking about? Why is it important for us here in South Africa? Why is it important for us sitting wherever we are, minding our own business, dealing with bread and butter issues? And I want us to talk to that point straight after this break. Do stay with us. And remember that we are taking your comments as well. Did you know what a paleoanthropologist was? Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. But do drop us a line on our Facebook page. That's Interface on SABC3. And maybe you can educate us about what you do that you think maybe we don't pay enough attention to. But do stay with us here on SABC3. Welcome back to Interface on this Women's Month, the first Sunday in August, and we are celebrating two women that are doing great things in their respective fields. And we're talking to Mission Control Specialist Gladys Magagula and also paleoanthropologist Miriam Tawane. And we were talking earlier about the relevance of what they do. Remember that you can join this discussion by sending us your comments on our Facebook page, which is Interface on SABC3. Now, you were explaining to us earlier before the break, Gladys, why is what you do relevant and important to us just sitting at home?
It's very important, Tembisa, because like now it's London 2012, people are watching Olympics. If it was not for the satellites up there, we wouldn't be able to say that. Every day we receive phone calls with our cell phones. If it was not for satellites, we wouldn't have that. Like everything nowadays is almost all dependent on satellites. So just imagine if now tomorrow morning all the satellites has stopped working. We wouldn't know where you're going because we are dependent now on our
So as a mission control
and stuff like
specialist,
yes.
What is your role specifically in making sure that those satellites are up and running and are delivering the goods to us?
As a mission control specialist, I was hired specifically for the South African satellite Sumbandela that was launched in September 2009. It was built in South Africa by South Africans for South Africa. Unfortunately, we lost our satellite last year due to radiation damage because Sumbandela was built as a technology demonstrator. So most of the components on board Sumbandela were not space rated. So because we just wanted to demonstrate if we can play up there, so we didn't use very expensive space rated material. So it's bound to, since space is a very harsh environment, we don't know what happens up there. So it suffered radiation damage. But we did manage to get a lot of data from it. Sumbandela was an Earth observation satellite, so basically it took images of the Earth. And last year in April, we assisted Namibia when they were flooded. They needed an image, which we managed to take an image within 24 hours of our tasking of an area, Oshakati, where they was very flooded, and then we delivered to them. And they were able to then do disaster management for stuff like that.
So it's very important work that you do, very important. Yeah. Miriam, let's look at the link between science and technology and also, subject matters like anthropology and economic growth, because everybody is focused on growing the economy, getting jobs and making sure that everything talks to the bread and butter issues of the nation. Is there a link, or is what you do really augmenting other aspects and not necessarily economic growth?
There would be economic growth, yes, but let's look at it from a perspective where we have communities living on heritage site. If they don't have information about the places that they live in, they might destroy that. Maybe something that we might just happen to call a missing link. So that would really, and we know science, we write journals, and those journals, they generate something university-wise. And of course, even in the community, we create jobs when we go for excavations. We need preparators who help us to help us excavate and dig up those breaches and bring them to the university. So economically, yes, it does have an impact, but it is not just as big as maybe you would expect it to be. But
it's significant still.
Definitely, yes. It shouldn't be ignored because it doesn't really change the value of a rent or something like that, but it really does have an impact economically.
Because I know that the government has been increasing the amount of effort that it puts in science and technology and recruiting people and trying to get more school leavers especially to be more involved in that. Do you think that the efforts are paying off? Do you think that the efforts are even enough for where we want to be as a country?
A lot could be done. That is my opinion. From the field that I am busy studying or working at, a lot could be done, especially from the previously disadvantaged. You go to the kids back home, and then you ask them, do you guys know what is a fossil? And a matriculant wouldn't even be able to tell you, and that is part of the national curriculum. So I think the government really, yes, they are doing something, and they are willing to learn. The communities, some are willing to learn, because I participated on an outreach program 3 years that focused on the grade 10 to 12 back at Taung. We focused on about 19 high schools. The attendance was so fantastic. We had a non-profit organization that was pushing this. The university was involved, the government was involved. So South Africans are willing to learn. We scientists, we need to avail ourselves to the.
Just looking at what government could be doing, what more could be done? Because you're saying it's already part of the curriculum, some of the things that the students don't know. What more can government do? They're putting money behind science and technology.
They should take scientists out of their laboratories and bring them to the communities. They should make sure that we do that. We don't only excavate something as precious as Karabo and we study it and we keep the information to ourselves.
Why don't you do it? Why doesn't Wits University do that?
We are doing that. We are doing that. Believe you me, like I've told you, we have been, 3 years ago, we've been doing that. Right, this year is not going to happen because of funding, but the talks are beginning again. Wits University is meeting again with the government from the Northwest to keep on pushing the outreach program, because it has so much, the positive impact that we had. It was really so satisfying. So
you need more government support, is what you're saying?
Yes, we could do with more government support. They are supporting us. I don't want to deny they are supporting us, but they could really just increase it a little bit.
All right, they are watching and they are listening to you, and hopefully they'll take what you are saying to heart. Let's take another short break. When we come back, we continue with this discussion here on Interface. Do stay with us. And thanks for staying with us here on Interface. Well, Science Week just ended, and tonight we're talking to two women that are making great waves in the scientific field, and we're looking at just different aspects of what they do. And just, Gladys, before we went on to the break, Miriam was talking about how scientists need to be more out there in communities, and government needs to support even more than what they're doing. Do you share that view, or do you think government is at least doing enough and is making the call enough, and now it's up to you guys, up to the scientists, to put yourselves more out there in communities?
Well, a bit of both. I agree with Miriam. They can still do more, but yes, they are currently doing, like you say, Science Week has just ended. Some of our scientists were at UJ this past week for Science Week, and there were a lot of other scientific bodies as well. And us also at our farm, we hosted a number of students. We hosted about 2 schools a day, each a school consisting of at least 60 learners. So,
is the interest increasing amongst learners, or are they kind of bored with it and rolling their eyes?
You have no idea.
Science?
The interest it's amazing.
Okay.
the kind of questions that we received from those learners, they were like, wow. Because, okay, fine, they came there thinking that the dishes that were out there in our farm, because we've got lots of dishes, they're thinking of satellites, and we did correct that. And then now they started to asking even us about space junk. What are we doing with the satellites that are no longer working out in space? You know, stuff like that.
What are you doing with those satellites? Now that you mention it.
Well, currently there isn't any mechanism to do that, unless if, as an owner of a satellite, maybe if you can see that your satellite is deteriorating, if you can still command your satellite, you can maybe push it out of orbit to outer space for it to burn, or can re-enter it into, also when it re-enters the atmosphere, it will burn. But other than that, if it just stops talking to you, then it becomes space junk and just keeps on orbiting up until, I don't know.
Right. Miriam, is gender still an issue in your field?
I think things are changing. It was an issue maybe years ago, but now we have, I'm not the only female paleoanthropologist in my department, and I came after the few female paleoanthropologists. So yes, the statistics, it is not that great, but change is there. We are slowly but surely getting there. Women are really entering into this field that was previously dominated by males.
And in your field?
It is still a challenge in our field. Okay, maybe one can look at it in the other way, that space is still new. For instance, our space agency is only just over a year old. But our facility where I'm from, Space Operations, it's been in existence for over 50 years now. It used to be the Satellite Application Center under the CSIR. It was basically started by NASA in about 50 years ago as one of their mini track stations. And because of the political instabilities in the country, they abandoned it in the 1970s, and then it was taken over by CSIR. But still, growing up, I didn't know about space, so probably there are a lot more kids there who don't know about space. When coming to women, yes, it is a challenge, because really the work there, for instance, the station is meant 24 hours. So that means we've got shift workers. Imagine if I'm a shift worker and considering starting a family. So it's a huge challenge, because I can't leave an infant at home and go work the night shift. Sorry.
Okay.
You see, stuff like that. So it is still a challenge, but I noticed that it's not only in South Africa, but in Africa as a whole. It's still a challenge. It started like that also with the Americans and the Russians, who are now
So we will get there eventually, we will. And for you, Miriam, what do you think we need to do to encourage more girl children, girl learners, more young women to get involved and even interested in your field? Or is it just something that you either have or you don't have?
Give them the information so that they can decide for themselves. Lack of information, it is really what is responsible for the low stats that we have for females not entering into this field. Go out there, give the kids the information. Boys and girls, really, let's not really specifically talk about girls, because...
So young people together.
Yes, especially the previously disadvantaged, they don't know anything about this. Give them tell them that this is a possible career that you can pursue.
So I'm going to throw the challenge back at you and say, what are you going to do more than what you are currently doing to make sure that you talk to more of those kids? Because if they see you with your skin color, if they see you with your gender, if they see you at your age doing what you're doing, they'll be more encouraged. So what more are you going to do to try and get more of those learners?
I intend on going around the country to start an outreach program. Even if I have to visit 9 provinces that we have, I will. The problem is the languages. Sometimes
we'll be there to interpret for you. Don't you?
I like engaging them I mean, imagine paleoanthropology. The terminology is so intimidating. So back at home, I found out that interacting with them in my home language, explaining to them what does it mean, what the language that they grew up
We
with.
will hold you to that.
That really made the difference,
Yeah.
and I would really travel all around South Africa.
You are
to
saying
preach
this
the
on
word.
national TV, so
I
we
am.
will definitely hold you to it, and we'll make sure you've got interpreters where you need them. What are you going to do to make sure you attract more young people?
I've already started this year. I've joined SLC in their Take a Girl Child to Work Day, and we managed to speak with my bosses, and then we hosted 21 girls from 3 schools around Nelspruit, where I come from. Because charity begins at home.
Okay.
So I thought at least it's good for them to
It's
see
a good
that
start, but we'd
Yes.
like to see you going out to the community.
Remember, Sansa is national, so this
Yes.
is supposed to be a national drive. And
All
I think
right.
it's an advantage for us since we've got also another directorate in the Western Cape where we can also...
But Gladys, we want this to be
Yes,
your
but-
initiative personally to say,
Yes.
I'm going to make a difference.
Yes, I am going to.
Thank you so
make
much.
it.
Both of you are such an inspiration. Thank you so much for sharing your stories with us, and all the best in the fields that you are working in. And we will follow up to see if you have kept your word and if you are recruiting more young
I
people.
have already started like her. Believe you me, I'm going to keep up the momentum.
Good work, good work. Thank you so much. And that's all from us tonight on Interface. Do drop us a line if you would like to keep chatting to us. Our email address is interface@sabc3.co.za. And remember, you can catch us on our Facebook page, Interface at SABC3. From me, Tembisa Magele, and the team, good night.